Hello and welcome to the Art Life video blog. It is day 109. I'm Jonny Mono.
My name's Jacob Wolf. Thank you, Johnny, for having me here.
Yeah, glad to have you. Yeah,
Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, hello everybody.
So, Johnny, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. Well, as I said, I'm Jonny Mono. I am an avid video gamer and comic book collector, and I've decided to turn that passion for video games into my own little spin on art. And what I like to do is take games that were never released here in the United States, and I like to put them on physical cartridges. So I translate them from their native Japanese or other language, put them into English, and put them onto a cartridge that you can play at home.
I had never heard of this before. I actually came and interviewed Mary Elizabeth, Johnny's wife.
Oh, such a lucky guy.
Yes, about her art. She does pet portraits. Check that video out if you haven't seen it yet. It's amazing. And I was just kind of looking around their house and came back into Johnny's studio. And
the man cave,
the
yeah.
man cave. And my mind was blown. I had never heard of anybody doing this before, and there have always been games that I wanted as a kid that were either never released or are just impossible to find.
Exactly. All the things that they used to tease in the Game Pro magazines and Electronic Gaming Monthly, Nintendo Power. Like, you'd hear about these amazing games coming out in Japan, and you'd hear stories about, like, oh, it's coming out in a couple of years. That means in America we're going to get it in, like, 3, right? They just never come out.
Yeah, so, just a whisper.
Exactly,
and
yeah.
Gone.
Absolutely.
So, what got you started into this, besides the obvious, like, wanting to get a hold of those games?
Well, as a youth, I was always the type of kid that would take things apart, you know. I took apart the VCR, much to my parents' chagrin, and I wanted to know what made it work. You know, how is it that this box that I put tapes in plays Ninja Turtles? And so I took it apart. I wasn't quite able to put it back together, so sorry, Dad. But, you know, it helped me to learn. And every piece that I took apart, I understood. And I said, okay, well, the motor turns the tape, and this mechanism opens it up so that the magnets can read it. And I just took that same hunger for knowledge, that curiosity, and I applied it to everything that I got into. So that led me to take apart my Nintendo. It led me to take apart my Atari. And it got to the point where not only was I taking them apart, but I was able to put them back together. And in some cases, I was able to upgrade them. So, not everything is perfect when they release it, but I try to get it better.
That's great. What were some of your first games that you worked on?
The first stuff that I worked on was for the Nintendo, because that's what I grew up on as a kid. I mean, we had an Atari when I was a baby, and you know, we were released at about the same time. But video gaming really hit its stride for me with the Nintendo, and so because of that, that's where I decided I wanted to start learning how to do the translations and the reproductions. So let's see, some of the first stuff that I made, probably these guys here. This is Final Fantasy II and Final Fantasy III. These were never released here in America, at least not on a Nintendo.
Hey, Nick, my brother, I know you don't have these, and I know you want those.
So yeah, I mean, that's what got me into it. Was, you know, Final Fantasy is one of my favorite games of all time, and I played Part 1 so many times through and through, and I said, you know what, I really wish I could play Part 2, Part 3 that I'd read about in Nintendo Power. There was all the rumors that they were going to bring Part 2 to the States, and it was never released. And I said, you know, there's got to be a way. I mean, you can play them on a computer. A lot of people know about emulation, that kind of stuff. It's not real. I want it on a physical cartridge. I want to play it with my controller. I want it on my old TV. You know, I want the real experience. And because of that, I did some research. I learned about everything that's inside of these things, and you know, I can take parts that look like this and turn it into this.
Do you want to explain the process a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. The way that we put games onto cartridges starts with taking what they call a donor cartridge, which means that it's a part-for-part acceptable donor. You can use existing pieces, and in the community of people that do this kind of reproduction, as they call it, we like to use the lesser popular sports games that were pumped out en masse. So you take a dollar football game that nobody cares about because you don't want to play as the '86 Bears.
Tecmo Bowl?
No. That's the gold standard. We don't touch Tecmo Bowl. That's the one good one.
Okay.
But all the other ones sucked.
I have been corrected.
Yes. But no, we take the crappy sports games, and what we do is we take the boards out of the game, and all of the information for the game is stored on what's called an EEPROM. And what I do is I pop them off, and I get brand new ones. And there's a device that you can hook up to a computer that'll program these. And that's exactly how they did it back in the factory at Nintendo back in the day. So they would burn the EEPROM program on there, somebody would put it on a board, they'd solder it together, and they'd put it in a cartridge, and that's how they did it. And so I'm doing the exact same thing 20-something years later in my home.
And you are actually going into the coding and switching out the translations?
Exactly, yeah. We're taking out all of the Japanese characters, we're putting in the English characters. Get a lot of help from folks online. You know, obviously I don't speak Japanese myself, but I'm a member of a lot of communities that work on the translations. And once those software patches get released, then I'm able to take the software and convert that into hardware.
It's really rad.
I'm super excited to do it myself, and you know, it's a service that I can offer to other people that were just as enthusiastic as me.
For sure. What are some of the games that you've done that you were really excited about?
Some of the stuff that really excited me, like I said, Final Fantasy was a great one. I'm also a fan of Sailor Moon as an anime, and as a fan of that, you know, it's kind of sad here in America to not get many games, but in Japan they had quite a few that came over. So I've made a Super Nintendo game, I've made a Sega Genesis game out of Sailor Moon, and as a fan of the series, it was real exciting to finally get to play as those characters that I love so much. And the games are really enjoyable.
Can you play as Tuxedo Mask?
No, he'll come out and he'll help you every now and then, but no, unfortunately you can't play as him.
All right.
I'm a Sailor Mercury guy myself, so...
I couldn't tell you what kind of sailor I am.
That's alright. Now you can. You'll learn.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that one was super exciting. Some of the other things that I'm into are what I like to call gabad games. And these are games that were really, really terrible, to the point where they're laughably bad. And that's a lot of the reason that they didn't come over to the States as well. So anybody who watches the Angry Video Game Nerd, I know there's probably a lot of people out there that check him out. He does a lot of reviews of those games that were just terrible. And to me, I think that it's fun to play games that are laughably bad. So I made a copy of this game, Hong Kong 97. That's an unreleased Super Nintendo game. That wasn't even released in Japan, let alone America. Somebody had a prototype of it, and they were trying to get Nintendo to sign off on it. And Nintendo said, no, this game is so bad, I'm not even going to produce this game. So the code was out there on the internet, and it was never released on a physical cartridge. I said, you know what? I'm going to make a copy of that. So I made a copy for myself. It's so bad. It's so bad, but it's hilarious.
What's the premise of this game?
The premise of the game is you are Bruce Lee's cousin named Chin, and in the game it's actually just a still picture of Jackie Chan. Like, they didn't even try with this game. So, completely unlicensed picture of Jackie Chan, and I guess the leader of Hong Kong is trying to take over the people in a very despotic manner. And so Chin is like, you know what? Can't stand for that. I'm going to take out everybody in Hong Kong. So the goal of the game is you, as Jackie Chan, take out everybody in Hong Kong and then finally get to fight the leader. And it's one of those games where one hit kills you, you have no free men, there's no continue, and you literally have to kill 1.2 billion people. Good luck.
So you've never beaten this game?
No. I've probably gotten about 100, 200 kills at best, and that's a chore.
Yeah.
And the whole time there is a 5-second song loop. Just 5 seconds. No sound effects. So if you ever get a chance, hop on YouTube, check out Hong Kong 97, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
All right. And so you are painting your cartridges too.
Yeah. I realized that I was having a lot of fun making the innards of it, but on some games it's like, well, gray is good and fine for some of these, but wouldn't it look better if it had a fancy paint job? So I take some of them and I'll trick them out and I'll give them a paint job like a sports car, or if a game is deemed appropriate, I'll paint it pink or red, or my personal favorite color is yellow, so I'll use some yellow cartridges, and I think it just makes the cartridges look a little bit more interesting as collector pieces.
Oops.
Oh, it's all right.
And you have a logo on the back that you've customized too.
Like any artist, you have to sign your artwork, and since obviously I'm not taking a paintbrush to these, figure I'd put my face on it.
So there's Jonny Mono as a Power Ranger.
That's my signature on all of my pieces.
Where do people get a hold of you?
As we've discussed, I'm doing a lot of stuff with my wife as far as art is concerned. And she's got a website. It's studiomonoandme.com. And we've set up a little web page on there for my reproduction stuff. So if you go to studiomonoandme.com, look to the left, and you'll see a banner that says Jonny Mono's Repros. You can take a look at some of the pictures of my work, get a little bit of a rundown on the process. And there's a form where you can ask me any kind of questions or any information that you want to know. I'm always happy to share what I know, and if there's anything that you're interested in, I can definitely set you up for a decent price.
Right on. You've you've put newer games on old cartridges as well.
Yes, that is true. That is true. Prime example of that is Street Fighter V on a NES game. So that's Street Fighter on the Nintendo.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, Street Fighter is one of those games that I was really into as well. Used to play a lot of it in the arcades, did some tournament play, and just decided, I love Street Fighter, I love the